this trimester was poverty and how it affects the American man. I went into my reading of the books, the idea that people start off in poverty, they're not really brought into it, or I chose more to focus on books that had that kind of center focus. I chose to read The Grapes of Wrath and An American Tragedy. The Grapes of Wrath was more focused around Depression-era poverty and how people were driven out of Oklahoma to California by big banks and corporations and lost all their money, lost their land, lost their families along the way. An American Tragedy was more of a crime-focused poverty kind of book. It had a lot of love story kind of stuff in it that was really twisted and messed up. In The Grapes of Wrath, the families were driven out of Oklahoma to California because of the Dust Bowl one and the banks took their land. This represented a lot of the families in the Depression era as the Joad family, who along the way they ran into trouble, they ran into hardships, and they lost their family members. Another thing that happened was along the way, the family members would die, and with this loss, they couldn't bury them, they couldn't deal with it. The Joads were a successful family. They weren't dirt poor when they started off. They didn't have a lot of money, but they had food and they could provide for their family members. But eventually, they lost everything. They lost just the will to live almost at the end. What I learned from this is cynical but true. Hoping for better things will not always bring you to them. They were hopeful. The mother of the family always kept the family together and tried to keep them going, but it ultimately didn't work. Sometimes there's not any better alternative to the life that you have. They were wishing for a better life in California, but they eventually never reached it. In An American Tragedy, it was more focused on inner city kind of crime things and poverty in that way. It was based in the 20s, and it didn't have as much to do with the rags to riches kind of thing and losing the riches, but in rags throughout your entire life. The main character is driven by his parents to do well, but completely ignores them, doesn't want anything to do with it, and is focused on more of a life of pleasure and having fun. And through this, doesn't gain any personal wealth, doesn't gain really anything from the experience of this. He ends up killing someone, being put in an electric chair, and dying. It's cynical but true. There's not always an escape from your circumstance. Parents may hope to have direct influence on their children, but it's up to the child to listen. I'm sure your parents tell you to do well in school, to listen to your teachers, pay attention in class, get a job, but ultimately, if you don't want to do any of these things, you can choose not to. There may be consequence from it, but you might not always listen to it. The representative text that I chose was from the Migrant Mother series by Lynch, and after discovering this series, I realized the importance of this picture. The mother in the photo I thought represented Ma Joad from The Grapes of Wrath really well because she's trying to hold her family together in this picture, and I also thought that she represented the mother in American Tragedy. In conclusion, the rags to riches story doesn't always end in riches. People may never get there, as unfortunate as it is, and poverty has, is, and always will be part of America as well as the rest of the world. There's always been poverty here. People try to help it, there's soup kitchens, there's homeless shelters, but at the end of the day, you can't help